perseverance leads to success. Perseverance has grown scarcer in our times. Many individuals feel that being at the right place at the right moment is more important than persistence. What can you blame them for? The news media is filled with commercial slogans that subliminally convey the impression that practically everything is possible with a little more work and a little more money. Newspapers often publish tales about sudden triumphs and whiz-kid entrepreneurs who make millions straight out of high school. In a world preoccupied with perception, everything appears too simple. Looks like something anybody could achieve if he merely learned the method, had the talent, or intercepted the bolt of lightning from God, laments journalist Leonard Pitts. What exactly is perseverance? To persist implies to stick steadfastly and continuously to any goal, state, or endeavor in the face of challenges or failures. It suggests perseverance in the face of hardship, being tenacious and not giving up. The Bible emphasizes the significance of this characteristic. God's Word, for example, instructs us to stay on, then, seeking first the kingdom, keep on knocking, and it will be open to you, persevere in prayer, and hold on to what is fine. Coping with the inevitable failures is a crucial component of persistence. The godly one may fall even 7 times, and he will undoubtedly rise up, says the ancient writer. When confronted with difficulties or failure, the tenacious person gets up, keeps on, and tries again. Many, however, are unprepared for the obstacles and setbacks that they may face. They give up easy because they have never acquired the drive to endure. Too many individuals respond to failure in a self-destructive manner, writer Morley Callaghan notes. They wallow in self-pity, blame everyone, grow bitter, and fold up. This is regrettable. We forget, Pitt says, that there is a cause for going through trial, that there is some benefit to be discovered in difficulty. What is the worth of that? Learns that failure is not deadly, nor defeat forever, he concludes. One grows in depth, one gets prepared. By every form of toil there comes to be a gain. Of course, getting back on track after a setback is not always simple. Sometimes we confront obstacles that seem to defy our best attempts to conquer them. Rather of growing closer, our objectives may seem to be retreating deeper into the background. We may feel overwhelmed, incompetent, disheartened, and even despondent. Nonetheless, the Bible encourages us, let us not give up doing what is good, because in due season we will reap if we do not weary. What can motivate us to keep going? Setting useful and realistic objectives is the first step in sticking with a selected path. Successful people are much aware of this. The way I'm sprinting is not unsure. The way I'm focusing my strikes is so that I don't strike the air. The goal of every ambitious person. For you to realize that you want your efforts to be effective, you need specific objectives. Much like a runner concentrating his thoughts on reaching the finish line in a race. Do you realize that in a race, all the runners run, but only one wins the prize? Run in such a manner that you may achieve it. How are we going to do this? The wise ways is paths. It is prudent to examine our life strategy from time to time, asking ourselves where we are headed and if any changes are required. It is critical to know exactly what we aim to achieve and why. We will be less likely to give up if we retain a clear image of our final goal in mind. As for your eyes, they should stare straight ahead, the inspired adage advises, so that all your own methods be solidly set. After you've determined your objectives, the following stage is to figure out how to get there. Who among you who wishes to construct a tower does not first sit down and assess the cost? Jesus said. According to a mental health professional, one of the things I've found about successful individuals is that they have a strong awareness of the link between cause and effect in their life. Successful individuals realize that if they desire something, they must do all in their power to get it. Having a clear grasp of all the actions we need to take to reach our goals can help us stay focused. It will also make it easy to regroup if we have a setback. Such insight was crucial to Orville and Wilbur Wright's success. As a result, when failures occur, try to see them as a constructive learning experience. Analyze the scenario, figure out where you went wrong, and then rectify the error or strengthen the weakness. It is important to speak with others since through advice plans themselves are firmly formed. With each attempt, you naturally gain greater knowledge and talent, which eventually contributes to your success. Consistent activity is a third key characteristic of persistence. To the degree that we have made progress, let us continue walking methodically in this same pattern. Moderation and constancy over time yield major effects, as one instructor put it. This is vividly depicted in Aesop's tale about the tortoise and the hare. Despite being far slower than the hare, the turtle won the race. Why? Because the turtle used a methodical and disciplined approach. He did not give up, but instead picked a pace that he could reasonably maintain and stuck to it until he crossed the finish line. Because the organized, consistent individual makes continuous progress. He stays motivated and is less likely to stop or be knocked out of the race. Yes, run in such a manner that you will reach your destination. Choosing meaningful objectives. Of course, for endurance to be useful, we must have meaningful aims. Many individuals pursue activities that do not offer them satisfaction. However, he who looks into the complete rule that pertains to freedom and persevere in it will be joyful in his doing. Yes, learning from great people as it is laid forth in the best-selling books are desirable objective. Why? It is essentially because most writers are founded on their flawless, moral ideals. They know what is best for their audience since they have a proven result. So, if we persevere in studying good books and implementing them in our lives, we will undoubtedly find pleasure. To be sure, putting what we've learned into practice might be difficult. We may need to change our way of thinking or our routines. Well-meaning friends or family members may even object to our study. As a result, perseverance is needed. You may be certain of success if you continue in learning about perseverance and implementing what you learn. The power of information manipulation. By clever and persevering use of propaganda, even heaven can be represented as hell to the people, and conversely the most wretched life as paradise. Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf. As means of communication expanded, from printing to the telephone, radio, television, and the internet, so did the flow of persuasive messages. This communications revolution has resulted in information overload, as individuals are bombarded with signals from all directions. Many people react to this pressure by processing communications faster and accepting them without questioning or studying them. The astute propagandist relishes such shortcuts, particularly those that shut off reasonable reasoning. Propaganda facilitates this by arousing emotions, manipulating fears, relying on linguistic ambiguity, and bending logic principles. As history has shown, such approaches may be quite successful. A propaganda history. Today, the word propaganda has a negative connotation, implying dishonest techniques. However, this was not the original meaning of the phrase. The term propaganda is derived from the Latin name of a body of Roman Catholic cardinals known as the Congregatio de Propaganda Fide. Pope Gregory XV created this body, known as propaganda, in 1622 to monitor missionaries. Gradually, the term propaganda evolved to refer to any attempt to disseminate a belief. However, the idea of propaganda did not emerge till the 17th century. Men have exploited every available media from ancient times to disseminate beliefs or increase fame and power. Since the days of the Egyptian pharaohs, for example, art has served propagandistic purposes. These rulers built their pyramids to portray might and endurance. Similarly, Roman architecture had a political function, the glory of the state. When governments started actively molding the war material conveyed by the media during World War I, the word propaganda took on a usually negative meaning. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels proved to be excellent propagandists throughout World War II. Following World War II, propaganda became an increasingly important tool for promoting national policy. Both the Western and Eastern blocs launched all-out attempts to sway the vast majority of undecided voters. Every area of national life and policy was used to spread propaganda. In recent years, the complexity of propaganda methods has been seen in electoral campaigns as well as cigarette company advertising. So-called experts and other leaders have been hired to depict smoking as glamorous and healthy, rather than the public health menace that it is. Lies, lies, lies. The employment of explicit falsehoods is perhaps the most useful tool of the propagandist. Consider Martin Luther's claims about Jews in Europe in 1543. They have poisoned wells, committed murders, kidnapped infants. They are poisonous, spiteful, vengeful serpents, assassins, and devil's spawns that sting and do destruction. His advice to so-called Christians: set fire to their synagogues or schools, and raze and ruin their dwellings. Anti-Semitism has basically nothing to do with the conduct of Jews, and hence fundamentally little to do with an anti-Semite's awareness of the true character of Jews. Says a professor of government and social sciences who has studied that period. The Jews stood for everything that was wrong, he adds, so that the instinctive response to a natural or social disease was to go to its alleged Jewish causes. Making broad generalizations. Generalization is another very effective propaganda tool. Generalizations have a tendency to obfuscate essential details about the underlying problems at hand, and they are commonly used to denigrate whole groups of individuals. Gypsies or robbers, for example, is a common expression in various European nations, but is that correct? According to journalist Richard O. Sumritis, such beliefs produced a xenophobic and often frequently racist fervor against immigrants in one nation. However, it has been shown that when it comes to delinquent activities, the perpetrators in that nation are just as likely to be native-born as foreign-born. Sumritis, for example, says that polls reveal that 96 out of 100 crimes in Greece are committed by. The roots of criminal conduct are economic and social, not racial, he says. He accuses the media of systematically promoting xenophobia and bigotry via distorted crime coverage. Name-calling. Instead of concentrating on the facts, some individuals belittle others who disagree with them by questioning their character or intentions. Name-calling attaches an unfavorable, memorable label to a person, a group, or a concept. The name-caller hopes the moniker sticks. The name technique callers has succeeded if people reject the person or concept based on the derogatory label rather than considering the facts for themselves. For example, in recent years, a strong anti-sect feeling has spread across many European and other nations. This approach has sparked emotions, produced an adversarial image, and strengthened existing biases towards religious minorities. The term sect is often used as a catchphrase. Sect is another synonym for heretic. German professor Martin Creel stated in 1993, and a heretic now in Germany, as in the past, is, if not by fire, then by character assassination, isolation, and economic annihilation. According to the Institute for Propaganda Analysis, bad labels have played an enormously important influence in global history and in our own individual development. They have damaged reputations, incarcerated individuals, and driven men insane enough to fight and slay their fellow citizens. Exploiting emotions. Even though sentiments are unimportant when it comes to factual statements or the logic of an argument, they play an important role in persuading. Emotional appeals are concocted by skilled publicists who manipulate emotions like a virtuoso on the piano. Fear, for example, is an emotion that may obscure judgment. And, as with envy, fear may be used. Hatred is a powerful emotion that propagandists use. Loaded language is very good at eliciting it. There seems to be an almost limitless supply of derogatory phrases that encourage and exploit animosity against certain racial, ethnic, or religious groups. Some propagandists exploit pride. We can often recognize pride-based arguments by searching for terms like "Any clever person knows that," or "A person with your knowledge can't help but realize that." A reverse appeal to pride exploits our fear of seeming foolish. Persuasion experts are fully aware of this. Symbols and slogans. Slogans are broad assertions that are often used to communicate opinions or intentions. They are simple to agree with since they are ambiguous. In times of national crisis or war, for example, demagogues may utilize slogans such as "My country, right or wrong, fatherland, religion, family, or freedom or death." But how many people thoroughly examine the fundamental problems at stake in a crisis or conflict? Or do they just accept what is given to them? Winston Churchill wrote on World War I, "Only a signal is required to change these thousands of gentle peasants and craftsmen into the tremendous hordes which will rip each other to pieces." He also saw that most individuals reacted unthinkingly when instructed what to do. The propagandist may also use a variety of symbols and signals to express his message, such as a 21-gun salvo, a military salute, or a flag. Parental love may sometimes be misused. Thus, symbols like the fatherland, mother nation, or mother religion are useful weapons in the hands of the astute persuader. As a result, the devious technique of propaganda may freeze mind, hinder rational thinking and judgment, and prepare people to behave in unison. How can you safeguard yourself? What causes love to fade? It appears to be much simpler to fall in love than it is to stay in love. It's hardly surprising that loveless marriages are on the rise. Marriage is a complicated human connection, and many people enter it with little planning. We must demonstrate some proficiency while acquiring a driver's license, says one expert. But marriage licenses may be obtained for a signature. As a result, although many couples prosper and are really happy, others suffer from tension. Perhaps one or both partners had great hopes for their marriage but lacked the abilities required for a long-term connection. When individuals initially get close, they feel a huge feeling of affirmation from one another, adds Dr. Harry Rise. They receive immense affirmation from one another. They believe their lover is the only other person on the planet who sees things as they do. That sensation diminishes from time to time, and when it does, it may be devastating to the marriage. Fortunately, many marriages do not reach that stage. But first, let us look at some of the circumstances that have led love to fade in some situation. "This is not what I expected," says the disillusioned. "When I married Tony, I imagined we'd be the local version of Sleeping Beauty and Prince Charming, all passion, sensitivity, and regard for each other," Rose explains. Rose's prince didn't appear so charming after a time. "I was really disappointed in him," she recalls. Many films, novels, and popular songs portray an exaggerated picture of love. A man and a woman may feel as if they are living a dream when dating. But after a few years of marriage, they realize that they must have been dreaming. Anything less than a fairy tale romance may make a working marriage appear to be a complete disaster. Of course, certain marriage expectations are totally appropriate. It is reasonable to expect affection, attention, and support from one's mate, for example. Even so, these requests may not be granted. "I almost feel like I'm not married," Mina, a young woman from the UK, says. "I'm lonely and unappreciated." "We have nothing in common," says the incompatibility. "My spouse and I are approximately 180 degrees different on almost everything." One lady adds, "There isn't a day that goes by that I don't regret marrying him. We're simply terribly incompatible." It usually does not take long for a married couple to realize that they are not as similar as they seem to be during courting. Marriage often reveals qualities that the couples had managed to conceal from themselves throughout their single lives. As a consequence, some couples may think that they are entirely incompatible after marriage. According to Dr. Aaron T. Beck, despite some parallels in taste and personality, most individuals start a marriage with significant disparities in style, habits, and attitudes. Many couples do not know how to work through their disagreements. "We're always arguing. We were astonished at how much we were fighting, yelling at one another or worse. Boiling about in silence for days," Cindy recalls of her early marriage. Disagreements are unavoidable in marriage. But how are they dealt with? In a good marriage, husband and wife feel free to raise a problem, says Dr. Daniel Goleman. However, in the heat of rage, grievances are sometimes stated in a harmful manner as an assault on the spouse's character. When this occurs, dialogue becomes a conflict where ideas are fiercely guarded, and words become weapons rather than instruments of communication. According to one expert group, one of the most harmful aspects of out of control disagreements is that spouses tend to say things that threaten the very lifeblood of their marriage. "We've given up," they say. After 5 years of marriage, one lady said, "I've given up on trying to make our marriage work. I know it'll never work now, so all I'm worried about are our children." According to some, the actual antithesis of love is indifference, not hatred. Indeed, apathy may be just as damaging to a marriage as animosity. Unfortunately, some couples grow so used to a loveless marriage that they abandon all chance of improvement. For example, one spouse compared being married for 23 years to working in a job you don't enjoy. "You do the best you can in the scenario," he continued. Similarly, Wendy, a wife of 7 years, has given up hope for her husband. "I tried so many times, and he constantly let me down," she adds. "I eventually succumbed to depression. That's something I don't want to go through again. If I get my expectations up, I'll just be disappointed. I'd rather not anticipate anything. I won't like it, but at least I won't be sad." A loveless marriage may be caused by a variety of circumstances, including disillusionment, incompatibility, conflict, and indifference. How can I reduce my anxiety? The future might be one of the most difficult aspects of a young person's life. You are concerned about yourself. Should I leave the house? Do you go to school? Start a full-time ministry? Getting married? It's frightening how many possibilities you have. 20-year-old Othman. Do you fear a lot? Many young people do, for a number of reasons. According to a parent email, a recent international poll of youngsters aged 15 to 18 in many nations found that having a decent job is the #1 worry among today's youth. Concerns about their parents' health came next. Fear of losing someone they cared about ranked high on the list as well. According to a poll conducted by the United States Department of Education, the pressure to earn high grades is a serious issue for many young people in the United States. According to the same study, many young people share Shane's sentiments. Ashley, another adolescent, adds, "I'm concerned about my future." Others, though, are concerned about their physical safety. However, not all concerns are as dire. Many young people are concerned about their social lives. Teens do worry about having a boyfriend or girlfriend, but more commonly they worry about having no friends at all, says an online magazine aimed at parents. Megan, an adolescent, complains, "How do you appear and behave cool? I need some company." Similarly, Nathanael, a 15-year-old Christian youngster, notes, "The kids at school care about style. They are concerned about how they move, speak, and seem to others. They are terrified of seeming ignorant." Here are some key points to take note of. 1. Problems are unavoidable in life. It would be ideal if we could live without anxiety. As a result, problems and the anxieties that accompany humans are an inevitable part of existence. However, allowing fears and anxieties to dominate your thoughts might do significant harm to yourself. Anxious anxiety in a man's heart is what will lead it to stoop down. Controlling your own conduct is one method to minimize unneeded concern. Many of my friends are concerned about becoming pregnant or contracting a sexually transmitted illness, Anna, 16, adds. However, you may prevent such concerns by adhering to the moral principles. Even yet, not all of your difficulties will be that obvious or simple to address. How can you get yourself to quit worrying so much? 2. Think wisely. Many individuals let anxiety paralyze them. However, an article in a teen magazine stated that one might worry properly by converting stress into positive activity. Many ideas in the Bible may assist you in your endeavor. The attentive one's preparations will undoubtedly benefit him. Assume you wish to get together with several buddies from the church. A little forethought may save you a lot of trouble. Who will be invited? Ask yourself, when do I want them to show up? What time do I want them to leave? How much food and drink do I truly require? What are some enjoyable activities for everyone? The more you plan ahead of time, the more likely it is that your gathering will go well. Allowing things to grow too complex, on the other hand, might cause anxiety. A few things, nevertheless, are required, or just one. Jesus Christ advised a lady who went to more bother than was necessary in arranging for her visitor. So ask yourself, what is really crucial for the success of this gathering? Keeping things simple may assist you in reducing your anxiety. Another cause of concern might be your safety at school. There may be little you can do to improve the situation. However, you may take practical precautions to safeguard yourself. Wisdom is the one who sees the disaster and conceals himself, says a Jewish poet. Simply avoiding risky regions, not only isolated areas, but also unsupervised areas where the unruly tend to congregate, can reduce your chances of getting into trouble. Schoolwork may also be a cause of concern. Perhaps you have multiple critical homework tasks and are concerned that you will not complete them all on time. Make certain of the most essential things is a beneficial guideline. Yes, you must learn to prioritize. Determine which task is the most time important and do it first, then on to the next one. You will gradually gain control of the situation. 3. Seek advice. Aaron suffered chest issues as a child because he was so concerned about completing final examinations. I talked to my parents, and they sent me to the doctor, he remembers. He instantly recognized that my heart was okay and explained how worry may impact the body. My parents later helped me understand that I had done all I could to prepare for the examinations, and that now I needed to focus more on taking care of myself. My nervousness subsided, my chest aches subsided, and I performed well on my examinations. Don't suffer in quiet if you're burdened with concern. Anxious worry in a man's heart is what will lead it to bend down, but the good word is what makes it glad, says a Jewish poet. Only by discussing your anxious care can you get a nice word of encouragement. First, you should discuss your options with your parents. They may have some recommendations. Another source of assistance is the spiritually mature members of your local Christian church. I was frightened about going to high school, scared of confronting everything, drugs, sex, violence, until I talked to a church elder, Janelle, 15, says. He made several practical ideas to me. I felt instantly better since I understood I could manage the problem. 4. Don't postpone things. Sometimes we need to do something but put it off because it is uncomfortable. Bernice, a 19-year-old Christian, had a personal disagreement with another Christian. She knew she needed to discuss things out, but she put it off. The more I pushed it off, the more it irritated me, she admits. Bernice then recalled Bible instructions, which encourage Christians to resolve such issues as soon as possible. I had relief when I eventually did it, Bernice says. Are you putting off an unpleasant task or an uncomfortable confrontation? So, take care of it as quickly as possible, and you'll have one less thing to worry about. 5. Severe situations. Not every problem can be settled that effortlessly. Consider the case of Jack, a young guy. His mother is dying of cancer, and he must care for both her and his younger brother. Naturally, Jack is concerned about his mother's health. I take a lesson from Jesus' words. Who among you by being concerned can add 1 cubit to his lifespan? He adds, instead of feeling agitated. I attempt to analyze the issue and figure out what would provide the greatest outcomes. It is difficult to remain cool during a crisis. Some people get so upset that they ignore themselves and refuse to eat. However, according to the book Helping Your Teenager Deal with Stress, depriving oneself of basic sustenance makes you much less capable of withstanding the ravages of stress and even more prone to serious health problems. So take physical care of oneself. Get enough rest and nutrition. You may find the most comfort by following the instructions of the Bible. Throw your weight onto God Himself, and He will support you. He will never enable the virtuous to stumble. Othman, as said before, was concerned about his future. I started focusing more on God's Word and His mission. He says. He soon recognized that if he utilized his life to serve God, he would have a happy future. Othman says, I stopped caring about myself. I needed to think about something broader. So, if you find yourself worrying excessively, look for positive solutions to your situation. Seek mature counsel. Above all, bring your troubles to God, for He loves you. Perhaps with His assistance, you will be able to reduce your anxiety. It's good for you to smile. When it is true, it melts the ice of skepticism. It dissolves layers of bias that have built up through time. It melts hearts that have been frozen by unbelief and distrust. It provides many people comfort and pleasure. I understand, it says, don't be concerned. It expresses the desire that we can be friends. What exactly is this potent tool? It's a grin. It could be your grin. What exactly is a smile? Dictionary definitions of a grin include a facial expression in which the corners of the lips curl slightly upward, suggesting amusement, pleasure, or delight. This is the key to the friendly grin. A grin is a nonverbal technique of expressing or conveying one's sentiments to others. Of course, a grin may also convey contempt or disgust, but that is another topic. Is it true that smiling makes a difference? So, can you recall a time when someone's grin made you feel relieved or relaxed? Or when the lack of a grin made you feel uneasy, if not rejected? A smile may make a difference. It affects both the one who is smiling and the person who is being smiled at. A smile's good influence endures to this day. A friendly smile might assist to reduce stress. It might function similarly to a pressure cooker's safety valve. When we are uncomfortable or upset, a grin might assist us to relax and deal with our feelings. Tracy, for example, often caught people staring at her. She believed they were critical of her since they swiftly averted their gaze as she recognized them. Tracy was lonely and depressed. A buddy once advised that she smile at folks when she drew their attention. Tracy did it for 2 weeks and was surprised that everyone smiled back. Tensions had dissipated. Life has become a lot more joyful, she says. Yes, a grin puts us at comfortable with people and encourages us to be more pleasant. The positive impact on you and others. Smiling may have an emotional impact on a person. It assists in putting one in the proper state of mind. It is also beneficial to one's physical well-being. Laughter is excellent medicine, as the adage goes. In reality, medical professionals believe that one's mental state has a lot to do with one's physical health. Numerous studies show that chronic stress, bad emotions, and the like impair our immune system. Smiling, on the other hand, helps us feel wonderful, and laughing even strengthens our immune system. A grin has a powerful impact on people. Consider a circumstance in which you are being counseled or scolded. What kind of look do you want to see on the counselor's face? Anger, impatience, rejection, or even hostility may be conveyed by a frigid or stern countenance. On the other hand, wouldn't a nice grin on the counselor's face put you at rest and so make you more open to the counsel? A grin, without a doubt, helps to prevent misunderstandings in uncomfortable circumstances. Positive thoughts facilitate smiling. Of course, most of us aren't skilled actors who can flash a dazzling grin at any time, and we don't want to be. We want our smiles to be real and natural. It is crucial to relax and provide a sincere grin, or else your smile may appear false, said a communication school teacher. How can we really smile from our hearts? The Bible urges us, out of the fullness of the heart the mouth speaks. The good man sends forth good things from his good riches, whilst the evil guy sends out bad things from his wicked treasure. Remember that a grin is a nonverbal method of expressing our emotions. Given that we speak from the wealth of the heart and that good things emerge from a good treasure, it is clear that the secret to a genuine grin rests in our thoughts and emotions. Yes, what is in our hearts will undoubtedly be conveyed, not only through our words and actions, but also via our facial expressions, sooner or later. As a result, we must continue to focus on optimistic thinking. Our opinions about people have a big influence on our facial expression. So let us focus on the better attributes of our family members, neighbors, and excellent friends. It will be a lot simpler for us to smile at them. It will be a real grin, since it will come from a heart full of charity, mercy, and kindness. Our eyes will shine, and everyone will know we're serious. It should be noted, however, that some individuals find it more difficult to grin than others due to their past or surroundings. Even though they have a lot of love for their neighbors, they aren't used to seeing them smile. For example, Japanese males are typically required to maintain immaculate composure and quiet at all times. As a result, many of them are not used to greeting strangers with a smile. The same may be said for other civilizations. Some people are naturally timid and may find it difficult to smile at others. As a result, we should not criticize people based on the size or frequency with which they grin. People are unique, as are their qualities and modes of communication. Nonetheless, if you find it difficult to grin at others, why not practice? Let us not give up doing what is good. Let us work what is good toward everybody. One method to do what is good for others is to smile at them, and you can do it. So take the initiative in meeting people and encouraging them with a smile. It will be much appreciated. You will also notice that when you establish the practice of smiling, it gets much simpler. Setting goals to overcome setbacks. Daniel and his wife, Jane, live in an apartment in New York near the airport. Jane, a charming hostess in her mid-70s, happily greets her guest. One cannot help but note how the pleasant living space reflects her cheerful temperament. The lovely flower arrangement by the entryway and the vibrant artwork on the walls exude enthusiasm and zeal for life. Next to the living room is a light room where Daniel, 77, sleeps, his back supported by an adjustable mattress. His gentle eyes brighten up as he sees his guest, and his lips spread into a big grin. He wishes he could get up, shake hands, and hug, but he is unable to do so. Daniel is paralyzed from the neck down, save for his left arm. Daniel is asked what has helped him live with diseases for almost half a century, since he has had them since he was 26 years old. Daniel and Jane share a chuckle. "We don't know anybody who is sick," exclaims Jane, her boisterous laughter filling the room. Daniel's eyes glitter with delight. He grins and nods in accord. "No one is sick here," he adds haltingly and throatily. Jane and Daniel exchange more lighthearted comments. Clearly, Daniel and Jane's love for one another when they met in September 1945 is still very much alive. But, truly, what difficulties have you faced? Daniel is asked again. And what has helped you cope and maintain a positive attitude on life? Daniel decides to relate his tale after some moderate nudging. Setbacks begin. Daniel was diagnosed with cancer on one of his voice cords in October 1949. 3 years after marrying Jane and 3 months after the birth of their daughter, Rosamund. The tumor was removed. Daniel's doctor informed him of another setback a few months later. The cancer had spread to the whole larynx. "I was warned that if I didn't get a laryngectomy, the removal of the whole larynx, I'd only have 2 years to live." Daniel and Jane were informed of the outcome of the procedure. The larynx, or voice box, spans from the base of the tongue to the windpipe's entrance. 2 voice cords are located within the larynx. When air expelled from the lungs flows through the vocal cords, it causes them to vibrate and generate spoken sounds. The tip of the windpipe is linked to a permanent aperture produced in the front of the neck after the larynx is removed. The patient breathes via this opening after surgery, but he has lost his voice. I was upset when I heard this explanation. Daniel says, "We had a little girl. I had a wonderful career, and we had big hopes for our lives. And now everything I had dreamed for has gone down the toilet." Daniel consented to the procedure since a laryngectomy may save his life. "I couldn't swallow after the procedure," Daniel says. "I couldn't say anything. I was deaf." Daniel could only connect with Jane by writing words on a notebook. It was a trying moment. They needed to establish new targets to compensate for this setback. Jobless and speechless. Daniel was rendered mute as a result of the laryngectomy, as well as unemployed. He used to work in a machine shop, but now that he could only breathe through his neck, dust and gases may harm his lungs. He needed to get a new work. He enrolled in a watchmaking school despite his inability to talk. "It reminded me of my former work," Daniel explains. "I understood how to put machine components together. And you put parts together while constructing watches. Only the pieces were not 50 pounds. He obtained employment as a watchmaker immediately after graduating watchmaking school. One aim has been accomplished. Meanwhile, Daniel had enrolled in an esophageal speech class. Sound is created in esophageal speech by vibrations in the esophagus, the tube that transports food from the neck to the stomach, rather than by the vocal cords. To begin, one must learn to swallow air and push it down the throat. Then, in a controlled way, one burps up the air. As the air exits, it causes the esophageal walls to vibrate. This makes a throaty sound that may be articulated using the mouth and lips to create speech. Before, I only burped when I had eaten too much." Daniel laughs. "But now I had to learn to burp all the time. Initially, I could only generate one word at a time. Like this. How are you doing? It was not simple. My instructor then advised me to drink a lot of ginger ale since the fizz would help me burp. So every time Jane and Rosamond went for a stroll outdoors, I drank and burped, drank and burped. I worked really hard on that. Despite the fact that 60% of all laryngectomy patients failed to learn esophageal speaking, Daniel made progress. Rosamond, who was about 2 years old at the time, unknowingly propelled him. Rosamond would speak to me and then gaze at me, hoping for a response, Daniel explains. But I couldn't say anything in response. She would continue to speak, but there would be no response. Rosamond, frustrated, would turn to my wife and beg, "Make Daddy speak to me." Her words touched me and inspired me to speak again. Daniel succeeded, much to the delight of Rosamond, Jane, and others. Another objective accomplished. Another blow was delivered. By the end of 1951, Daniel and Jane had run into a new problem. Doctors recommended Daniel to undergo radiation treatment because they were afraid the cancer may return. Daniel concurred. He was ready to continue his life when the therapy was over. He had no idea that another setback to his health was on the way. A year had gone. Daniel's fingertips were numb one day. Following that, he was unable to mount stairs. Soon later, he collapsed while walking and was unable to get back on his feet. Tests found that Daniel's radiation therapy had injured his spinal cord. His health was predicted to deteriorate. One doctor even warned him that his prospects of surviving were insignificant. Daniel and Jane were broken. Nonetheless, to compensate for this setback, Daniel joined a hospital for 6 months of physical rehabilitation. Although the treatment did not improve his physical condition, his hospital stay did improve his life, a development that ultimately led him to meet God. What caused this to happen? strengthened by understanding the source of setbacks. Daniel shared a room in a Jewish hospital with 19 disabled men, all of whom were Orthodox Jews. For 6 months, every afternoon, these guys spoke about the Bible. Daniel, a churchgoer, simply sat there and listened. However, by the time he left the hospital, he had heard enough to conclude that Almighty God is the only true God and that some theories are incompatible with the Bible. Daniel never returned to his church as a consequence. Nonetheless, he felt a need for spiritual direction in order to deal with life's difficulties. I continued praying to God for aid, Daniel adds, and my prayers were fulfilled. Jason, an elderly guy who was previously a neighbor and had heard of Daniel's struggle, went by one set in 1953. Jason invited Daniel to join him in Bible study, and Daniel consented. Daniel's eyes were awakened by what he read in the Bible. Jane joined the research once he shared what he had learnt with her. At first, we were informed that disease was a punishment from God, Daniel recalls. But our Bible study proved that this was not true. We were overjoyed, learning from the Bible the origin of all hardships, including my disease. And knowing that a better future would come helped us accept my predicament, Daniel adds. Daniel and Jane accomplished another objective in 1954, making additional changes. Meanwhile, Daniel's paralysis had progressed to the point that he was unable to work. Daniel and Jane changed positions to make ends meet. Daniel remained at home with Rosamond, while Jane started working at the watchmaking company, a job she retained for 35 years. Taking care of our daughter brought me a lot of pleasure, Daniel says. Little Rosamond liked it as well. She used to tell everyone she met proudly, "I take care of Daddy." Later, when she started school, I assisted her with her schoolwork and we often played games. Furthermore, I had a wonderful chance to teach her the Bible. Daniel and his family found satisfaction in doing what pleases God. It took him an hour to hobble from his house to the religious, yet he never missed a meeting. Daniel and Jane later acquired a small automobile after relocating to another area of town. And Jane drove the family to the gallery, despite the fact that Daniel could only talk for brief periods of time. Despite my challenges, I participated in most activities. I typed up my lecture, and another brother gave it, Daniel explains. Following the presentation, the school's principal coached me on its substance. Various members of the church also assisted Daniel in routinely participating in the preaching effort. Daniel was eventually selected as an executive help in the church, which came as no surprise to those who had seen his commitment. When his legs failed and the paralysis consumed him more, he was confined to his flat and finally became bedridden. Could he overcome this setback? A pleasurable diversion. Being at home all day, I sought for a diversion, Daniel explains. Before I got crippled, I used to like shooting photos. So I decided to try my hand at painting images, despite the fact that I had never painted anything before. I'm also right-handed, however my whole right hand and 2 fingers on my left hand have been paralyzed. Jane, on the other hand, purchased a stack of books on painting methods. I inspected them before beginning to paint with my left hand. Many of my paintings were destroyed in the incinerator, but I gradually learned. The magnificent collection of watercolor paintings that now decorate Daniel and Jane's apartment demonstrates that Daniel outperformed his expectations. About 5 years ago, Daniel continues, my left hand started to tremor so badly that I had to lay down my brush for good. Although this activity provided me a lot of happiness for many years, a remaining objective. Over 50 years have now gone since my health issues started, Daniel recalls. Reading the Bible still brings me consolation, particularly when I read the Psalms and the Book of Job. I am especially encouraged when members of our church come and share their positive experiences. Furthermore, a phone line to the church enables me to listen in on gatherings and even get videotapes of convention programs. I'm glad to have been blessed with a wonderful wife. She has been my constant companion throughout the years. Also, our daughter, who now serves God with her own family, brings us great delight. I particularly appreciate God for assisting me in remaining close to Him. Today, as my body and voice deteriorate, I am reminded of the Apostle Paul's words. We do not give up, but even though the man we are on the exterior is withering away, the man we are on the inside is being renewed from day to day. Yes, being spiritual. Why am I so insecure? Whenever I'm with others, I'm constantly concerned about how I appear, what I say, how I act, and what the other person thinks of me. I'm constantly insecure. Angelica, 17 years old. Does the fear of failure limit you from accomplishing things you truly want to do? Are you envious of other people's success? Do you obsess about what others think of you? Are you afraid of meeting new people? Do you crumble when you are criticized? Then you may be experiencing insecurity as well. Where do those emotions originate from? How will you get over them, young and susceptible? To begin, acknowledge that feelings of insecurity are universal. Because we are all born flawed, we are all prone to feeling inadequate or even useless at times. Furthermore, you are young and inexperienced. It's natural to feel apprehensive in strange situations, or when asked to perform something completely new for you. For example, the Bible tells us about Jeremiah, a young man who was chosen to be God's prophet. Despite being well into his 20s, Jeremiah was doubtful about his capacity to do this task and excused himself by stating, "I am but a boy." Timothy, the young man, apparently felt inadequate as well. To assist him overcome his fears, the Apostle Paul had to give him direct advice. Youths, according to the book Talking with Your Teenager, are, virtually by definition, in a highly vulnerable stage. They have anxiety about how they appear, what they've said, whether they're popular or loving. They are self-conscious and easily embarrassed or humiliated. They frequently have a hazy understanding of who they are. Why is this the case? One explanation is that adolescents are undergoing a period of significant bodily growth and change. According to Dr. Betty B. Youngs, these changes, which are beyond control, are dramatic, demanding, and terrifying. Adolescent can't see the light at the end of the tunnel and has no idea what's coming next. Naturally, this lack of control leads to feelings of uncertainty and worry. The influence of family and friends. Another aspect is your living situation. In an ideal world, the family would provide spiritual advice as well as emotional support. You fathers, do not exasperate your children so that they do not get downhearted, the Bible says. Unfortunately, some parents irritate their children by constantly criticizing them while withholding necessary praise and compassion. Parental criticism may frequently lead to deep-seated insecurity, explains psychotherapist Eleanor S. Field. And if you're still getting signals as a teen, it will further exacerbate your feelings of insecurity. Your coworkers might also erode your self-esteem by frequently taunting you or criticizing your appearance or behavior. You are more vulnerable to such criticism if you follow Jesus' admonition to be not of this world. It's frustrating, said Bernard, 16 years old. You're trying to fit in while also trying not to fit in. You don't want to be an outsider, but you want to follow biblical values. It's challenging because you don't want other kids to think you're weird, a 16-year-old girl added. Everyone wants to be liked by others. Maintaining a proper balance may be difficult. It could make you feel uneasy. However, emotions of insecurity can be self-inflicted. "I feel like nothing when I'm with other people," admitted one 17-year-old. "Since I don't know how to do anything correctly. As a result, I get quite insecure." Such sentiments may arise as a result of unjust comparisons of oneself to others. Combating insecurities. Whatever the source, feelings of uneasiness are a normal part of growing up and may never totally go away. Even as an adult, excessive care over one's looks, reputation, or talents can continue to upset one's confidence. Many teenagers try to hide their lack of self-confidence with shows of fake bravado, extravagant clothing, or disobedience. However, there are many better methods to deal with feelings of insecurity. Recognize your positive traits. You may not have the perfect body or shape, but you may have cultivated Christian qualities such as love, joy, peace, long-suffering, compassion, goodness, faith, mildness, and self-control. These traits are far more valuable than any physical characteristics, and they can even help you achieve God's favor. Avoid making unfair comparisons. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of the 32nd President of the United States, famously observed, "Let each one prove what his own labor is, and then he will have grounds for exultation in regard to himself alone, and not in comparison with the other person." Is it true that someone who looks better, wears nicer clothing, or is smarter than you is a better person than you? The fact is that God is not concerned with external appearances. For not the way man sees is the way God sees, since mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but God sees what the heart is, the Bible states. See 1 Samuel 16 verses 7. Avoid jealousy's trap. Jealousy is rottenness in the bones, and it creates insecurity. Instead, learn to rejoice with those who rejoice and be truly pleased with their achievements. If you do, others will be significantly less likely to criticize your achievements. Engage with others. According to Dr. Alan Fromm, those who have a favorable picture of themselves experience a type of calm, since they are focused in on others. People who have a low self-esteem are captives of the self. They are trapped in their constant self-awareness. Escape from such cage by keeping an eye, not just in personal interest on your own concerns, but also in personal interest on those of others. The more involved you are with others, the less concerned you will be with your own uneasiness. Do not devote your heart to all the comments that people may utter, especially when they are merely putting you down. Find methods to apply genuine criticism. On the other hand, a sensible person will listen and take in additional teaching. Wise people have despised wisdom and discipline. You may fall short in one area, but it does not imply that you are a failure as a person. But what if the criticism comes from your parents? It is the responsibility of parents to discipline their children. If you believe it is excessive, unjust, or embarrassing, choose a peaceful opportunity to talk with your parents and let them know how their remarks are impacting you. Set realistic goals. You don't have to be the class valedictorian or an Olympic athlete to enjoy sports. Wisdom is with the humble, because modesty requires being aware of one's own limits. However, don't set your goals too low out of fear of failure. Failure may be used to learn from. After all, you learn to walk by fighting your proclivity to fall. Don't be afraid to stand out. Youth who let their classmates to govern their speech, clothes, and grooming are essentially slaves. Instead, may you slave for God. If you are taunted for doing the right thing, take comfort in knowing that your brave actions bring delight to God's heart. These recommendations will undoubtedly be beneficial. However, Don't expect a sense of security to emerge immediately. Please be patient. Expect failures and resist the urge to wallow in self-pity. You will eventually feel more secure than you have ever felt.